thank you for holding the hearing today. Mayor Foxx, welcome to the committee. This hearing gives our committee the opportunity to perform one of the most important constitutional responsibilities provided to members of the United States Senate, the power to give advice and consent on the President's executive and judicial nominees. Today we are going to consider Mayor Anthony Foxx to be the 17th Secretary of Transportation. Established in 1967, the Department of Transportation employs approximately 53,000 full-time employees and has over $72 billion in budget authority. If confirmed, Mayor Foxx, not only will you be responsible for overseeing this important agency, but you will also be the principal advisor to the President on all matters relating to transportation. I know most of the individuals here today understand what an important position this is for our country, but every American is directly affected by our nation's transportation systems, including through personal and business travel, employment, the interstate movement of the products we grow, manufacture, and purchase, and their impact on the overall health of our economy. Specifically, over 12 million Americans are employed in the transportation labor force. That works out to just over 9% of the nation's entire non-agriculture workforce. The average American family spends roughly 17% of their total budget on transportation-related costs, and $1.6 trillion, or almost 10% of the U.S. GDP, is comprised of transportation-related goods and services. Even a rural state like my home state of South Dakota is directly impacted by the decisions made by the Secretary of Transportation. For instance, the regulations produced by the DOT have a direct impact on the ability of Daktronics, an industry leader in electronic scoreboards and display systems located in Brookings, South Dakota, to produce and sell dynamic message signs used on freeways and roadways to provide instructions, travel times, and road conditions to motorists. DOT components like the Federal Aviation Administration and the Federal Highway Administration play an important role in maintaining a robust national airspace and highway system to transport agriculture goods to market, enable tourists to visit South Dakota's many historic sites like Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, and the Badlands, or enjoy our world-class pheasant hunting. And regulations placed on truck safety by another DOT agency, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, impact more than 20,000 individuals in South Dakota employed by the trucking industry. The Secretary's decisions also shape the role of the Federal Railroad Administration plays in ensuring our freight rail lines are safe so that South Dakota's agricultural goods can make it to market quickly and efficiently. The position you're nominated for is certainly an important one, and to be successful, the Administration and Congress will need to work together to address the numerous transportation challenges we face ahead. Mayor Foxx, I look forward to hearing your testimony today and to learning more about you and your qualifications to be the next Secretary of Transportation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Foxx, the oversight of the activities of government departments and agencies is a serious responsibility of all members of this committee. If confirmed, do you pledge to give thorough and timely responses to requests for information and other correspondence to all members of this committee?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Ranking Member, and I will tell you that my goal as Transportation Secretary, if confirmed, would be to be as open and transparent as possible and to do my very best at all times to be responsive to this committee and to members of this Congress.
I'd like to point out that there are several outstanding letters that I sent along with the House T&I Chairman Schuster and with Chairman Rockefeller to the FAA and DOT that remain unanswered, and there are items that, in my view, need to be fully answered before I can support your nomination being reported from the committee. And so I just wanted to make sure that in terms of the responsiveness, the Department to the members of this committee, that we would get your response and on the record in terms of your intentions in that regard.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, there was the big issue that came up here in the last few months and the way that the Department and the Federal Aviation Administration handled spending reductions as a result of the Budget Control Act. The DOT and the FAA had over a year to plan for implementation of reductions, but the poor planning resulted in disruptions in FAA staffing and delays for passengers across the country. The Budget Control Act is the law of the land, and unless a grand bargain comes together, I think many of us agree that agency leaders should be prepared to plan for the contingencies of budget caps in the Budget Control Act. And so my question is, what experiences have equipped you to plan toward delivering safe and efficient air traffic control services within the current budgetary realities?
Well, Mr. Ranking Member, I will say a couple of things. As a mayor, I serve in a capacity in which we have to balance budgets and we have to work within what's there. And I have lots of experience in doing that. When I took the oath of office in Charlotte in 2009, our revenues were $200 million less than what they'd been the year before. And we had to work within that. We didn't raise taxes to get there. We actually had to work within the resources. And we found some innovative ways to do it. We were able to negotiate a new public safety pay plan. We were able to reduce the range of pickups and recycling projects, and we outsourced our recycling, which allowed us to increase recycling 30% and save $40 million over a 10-year period. So I have experience at working within the means to get there. On a broader point that you raise, I hope that this Congress, and I will be a partner in trying to help get us there, can achieve a broader answer to our budget challenges as a country in a balanced way. The President's put some ideas on the table. I know there's some ideas around Congress, and I think that's an important conversation that needs to be had. If we are left with sequester, it would be my goal to do an effective job of working within the administration and working with this Congress to have a no surprises result, and that's what I will be trying to do.
Okay. Let me ask you, shifting modes here, if I might, for just a minute. As Secretary, what role do you see yourself playing in the reauthorization process when it comes to MAP 21? The highway bill expires at the end of the next year. We're going to be going through that process again, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are with respect to that particular process and what role you see yourself playing in it.
Well, I'd like to be an active participant in the discussions about reauthorization of MAP 21. Of course, we're about 7 months into the bill as it is, and it's a 2-year bill that achieves many things that I think are important, such as looking at performance measures. There are more than 60 rulemaking provisions that are contained in the bill, but clearly we need a longer-term surface transportation bill. We need a longer-term answer to the sustainability of our funding sources. And those are questions that I want to be an active advocate both within the administration and with Congress.
And there always, with regard to this issue, always seem to be more projects than there is funding. And I'm curious as mayor how you've gone about setting priorities when it comes to determining which projects get funded and which don't.
Well, you know, Charlotte has had a long history of working very carefully with state and federal partners to get projects done. And in a city, there are some situations in which there's a state road and you need state help to be able to get that road completed or expanded. And we've had great success making the case for that, using regional partnerships not only within the city, but in some of the rural areas around the city. Within the city of Charlotte, in terms of our budgeting, we've had to make some very tough choices. We have, over the past couple of years, been talking about a significant capital program, but that program is about 1/5 of the size of the needs of projects that we have within the city. So we are working very hard. We're always working to make our priorities, but here's how I would look at it from a transportation perspective. Number one, which priorities are going to be the most helpful in helping us ease some of our mobility challenges, connecting people to jobs and to the global marketplace, and leverage what's there. In Charlotte, we try to leverage housing and other commercial developments that are near our transportation systems. There are some other considerations that may exist in places that aren't as urban as Charlotte, and we want to be very sensitive to that, and I certainly would be as Transportation Secretary.
One final question, and my time's expiring, but tell me what you have a 53,000 employee staff workforce, American people, a lot of people depend upon you, look to you, need to be able to build trust. And we've had some recent examples of government agencies where that trust is broken down. Give me just a little bit of your thoughts about how you'd build that kind of trust and credibility, not only with the people that would be under you, but also with the American people who will be looking to you for leadership.
Well, I think one of the most important things is to be present. One of the things that I've learned as mayor is that you can't stay in the bubble of your office. You have to go out and you have to see what's happening on the ground. You have to talk to people, both within the department and out in communities where projects are happening. That's how you learn. That's how you build the connection. That's how you build the trust. And with each member of this committee, I've had some wonderful interactions with all of you, and I happen to feel that there is real agreement on this committee that infrastructure is an important goal for this country, and I look forward to working with you to advance the interests of infrastructure.
Time expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Well, Mr. Chairman, if I just add to what you have said, and I do have another question or two, but actually I can put those on the record, so I know you're going to be responding to some questions on the record. But I think the one thing that I would, just observation I would make with regard to where we are, and the one thing we can't do, and this is why I asked the question about the next highway bill and what you saw your role as being, we cannot continue to borrow from the general fund to fund highways. We either have to decide that we're going to pay for it and figure out how we're going to do it, or we're going to have a lot smaller appetite when it comes to infrastructure. The one outcome that's not acceptable to me is to continue to borrow and to transfer from the general fund and basically put that on the backs of our children and grandchildren. And my frustration has been is that when the DOT secretaries come in front of the committee and we've asked for specific suggestions about how to do that, you know, we usually get the answer, we'll work with you with Congress, and we understand that, and we've got to play a role in that too. But I also hope that you will lead, the President will lead, and come up and put specific ideas on the table about how to solve these problems. Infrastructure is important. It's important to our country. It's important to our competitiveness. It's important to our economy. And the best way to deal with debt and deficits is to get a growing, expanding economy. And so everything we ought to have a focus on what will this do to grow the economy, to create jobs, and to improve the take-home pay of middle-class Americans. And I think a robust, strong infrastructure that supports that economy is critical and vital to that. But it's got to be paid for. And so I hope that you will get your pencils out and find as many savings as you can within the department's budget and look at doing things more efficiently. But then when it comes to putting proposals forward with regard, for example, to the next highway bill, to be specific and come at us with your ideas, and we'll try and work with you. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do have a question, if I might. I want to get you on the record on this because I mentioned in our meeting that Senator McCaskill and I were successful last year in enacting the European Trading Scheme Prohibition Act. And based on our discussion, I think you're familiar with the issue, and I just want to know if you're prepared to exercise your authority granted in the law to protect U.S. aviation users from the ill effects of the EU ETS if that's necessary.
Absolutely.
And
he feels very strongly about that.
Yes.
And I agree with him.
Okay. And do you believe that is the ICAO is the place which operates through international consensus is the proper venue and manner to address international aviation emissions reductions?
I do.
Good. And we'll look forward to, we may be facing that issue here again in the not-too-distant future. So we'll look forward to working with you on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to have you in front of us, and we wish you well.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Thune.